The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have signed edge rusher Randy Gregory to a one-year deal. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
Your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this Thursday episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs, credentialed member of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers as deputy editor of SB Nation's BucsNation.com. Here with you every Monday through Friday, along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, plus one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs to become an insider today. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. How is the Buccaneers draft strategy going to change with their latest addition? More on that coming up in a little bit. But let's start with the news of that addition, and that is that the Buccaneers have signed edge rusher Randy Gregory to a one-year contract. So Randy Gregory comes in as what you would assume is a starting edge rusher for the Bucs opposite of Yaya Diaby. He played last year for the Denver Broncos and the San Francisco 49ers, getting 3.5 sacks between the two teams over the course of 16 games. Now, Gregory played just 35% of snaps last season for the San Francisco 49ers and has not had a season over 55% of snaps in his career. So while it's likely that he is slated as a starter for the Bucs this season, as of right now, he is not going to give you Shaq Barrett snap percentages in the 70 to 80% range. Gregory's best seasons came in 2018 and 2021, both of those with the Dallas Cowboys. In 2018, he finished with 6 sacks, 15 tackles for loss, along with 25 hurries, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. Then in 2021, he again had 6 sacks, along with 27 hurries, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and 17 quarterback hits. Now, of course, Randy Gregory was twice suspended by the NFL for entire seasons for violating the substance abuse policy. He missed the entire 2017 and 2019 seasons, and he served some level of suspension every season from 2016 to 2020. This caused his development to stall a little bit and really cut into a few seasons when he was in his prime. He's entering his age 32 season, and Gregory is now reunited with Buccaneers outside linebackers coach George Edwards, who was the senior defensive assistant in Dallas from 2020 to 2022. Of course, 2021 being one of Gregory's most productive and most impressive seasons there with George Edwards. So in 2022, Gregory signed a mega deal with the Denver Broncos, 5 years, $70 million, $28 million guaranteed, but then he played just 6 games for the Broncos in 2022 and 4 games for the Broncos in 2023 before he was dealt along with a 2024 7th-round pick to the 49ers in exchange for a 2024 6th-round pick. He's coming off of a Super Bowl appearance on one of the best defenses in the NFL, and Gregory joins the Bucs in what I am considering a low-risk, high-reward kind of move. The Bucs are in desperate need of edge rushers, and now they're able to bring in a veteran who has been effective when on the field. The sack numbers are not off the charts, but then again, neither were Shaq Barrett's when he came to town. You're also talking about him working with a coach that he was with during one of the best seasons of his career. Now, with a chance to be a bigger part of the rotation instead of buried with an unreal array of talent like he was with in San Francisco, Gregory could really be a solid contributor for the Buccaneers this season. I'm not going to sit here and predict 15 sacks or something insane like that. But even matching his career high in sacks last season would have put him in a tie for second on the team, along with Antoine Winfield Jr., only trailing the 7.5 by Yaya Diaby. So you also now have someone that puts a little more pressure on opposing offensive linemen than Joe Tryon-Shoyinka or Anthony Nelson would have. Opposite of Yaya Diaby, both of these players will now get plenty of one-on-one opportunities that you would hope that they are going to be able to win. Gregory himself, this move in and of itself does not solve the Buccaneers' edge rush problem. However, it does help the veteran leadership in a group of very, very young players. You have now a proven commodity at the edge rush position that can come in a rotation along with Anthony Nelson and Yaya Diaby and Jose Ramirez and Marquise Watts. You have a group of players now that are able to come in and get the job done. He's very disruptive when he's on the field. He can win his one-on-one matchups. He is a guy that is a piece of the puzzle. He does not solve the problem. He is not the entire picture, but this was a really solid move by Jason Light and Todd Bowles to bring this guy in, especially in a Todd Bowles style defense where he can really, really excel. And there's not a ton of pressure on him to go out and be a double-digit sack guy. You hope that that is the result, but that is not what is expected of him coming in here. He was very productive in the right situations. On a team of marquee players in Dallas, Randy Gregory was able to succeed. On a team where he was a small part of a rotation, just loaded with talent in San Francisco, he was a solid contributor. The Denver Broncos situation was atrocious, and he did not play well under those circumstances. That is not the case in Tampa with Todd Bowles, with George Edwards, and opposite of Yaya Diaby. This is a good situation for a player like Randy Gregory. So you would look for him to have around 5 or 6 sacks on the season. And if you're getting around 5 sacks on the season for a guy taking half the defensive snaps, you're essentially getting what you got out of Joe Tryon-Shoyinka last year when he had 51% of the snaps finished with 5 sacks. But now, again, that allows him to play that quote-unquote joker role that Todd Bowles wants to utilize Tryon-Shoyinka in and move him all over the field. You don't have to rely on him as much at edge rusher. Instead, you have a big, strong guy that can win those one-on-one matchups and get pressure on the quarterback. Again, this isn't a major splash move, but this is a really good move for the Buccaneers in the situation that they are in right now. However, how is this going to affect the Buccaneers draft strategy next month, with edge rusher having been one of their biggest positions of need? That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is a registered broker dealer. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. Every day, just make sure you are coming back tomorrow. I will be going live on YouTube on Friday in the early afternoon. I was actually in the process of working on a deep dive into Chris Godwin and his potential future with the team when the Randy Gregory news broke. Had to shift things and address that on this episode. So coming up on tomorrow's episode when I go live on YouTube, going to be talking a lot about Chris Godwin and his future with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, unless something else crazy happens and I have to pivot again. But make sure you come back for that. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube with the notifications turned on, so when I go live, you know exactly when it's happening and you can join in on the live chat. But are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to hit the mute button because of all of that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. A free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So how does the signing of Randy Gregory affect the Buccaneers draft strategy? The short answer is that it doesn't. This doesn't completely fill the gap at edge rusher for the Bucs. So guys like Laiatu Latu, Jared Verse, Chop Robinson are all very much in play for the Buccaneers in the first round. However, with Gregory now on the roster to go along with Diaby, Nelson, Watts, Ramirez, the Buccaneers could push edge rusher to day 2 with guys like Marshawn Nealon, Jonah Ellis, Gabriel Murphy, and then implement a more consistent rotation of players throughout the season. So this is the long-winded answer of how this affects the draft strategy. If you have all of these players in a constant rotation, it allows Todd Bowles to continuously keep fresh players on the field and take advantage of fatigued blockers on the other side of the ball. Sure, maybe some of these guys emerge. You kind of figure Yaya Diaby's going to take another step forward. You would hope so anyway. But some of these guys could emerge and get a stranglehold on the starting job with the majority of the snap counts. But if you don't have a locked and loaded game changer at the edge position, you can implement a battalion mentality where it's constantly a fresh face with fresh legs that brings a different skill set to that particular play. On the flip side, this may affect their ability to get into a groove. But I want you to think about this in the same way that you would think about a running back by committee. So each running back in a committee brings different strengths to the rotation, and that rotation allows them to stay fresh. Doing that at the edge will be a huge advantage late in games when blockers are getting tired and facing players that have played a fraction of the snaps, dealing with a fraction of the physical toll that it takes on their body. They can still hit top speed in the fourth quarter like it's the first series of the game. It's also going to help cut down on some of the injuries that we see from these guys when their bodies are getting worn down. So no, you don't have a Shaq Barrett or a Jason Pierre-Paul that were taking up 70, 80% of the snaps. Instead, you have Randy Gregory at 35% of the snaps. Yaya Diaby's maybe at 55% of the snaps. You got Anthony Nelson, who's at about 20. You got Marquise Watts at 15. You have Jose Ramirez at 15. Maybe Joe Tryon-Shoyinka still gets about 10 to 15% at the edge position. What it does is allows those guys to go all out for that series. And then they get a couple series off. They get a breather. They get to, stretch a little bit, rest their legs, and then they're back out there going full speed in the fourth quarter on a critical drive when that left tackle or that right tackle has been beaten and bludgeoned by Kalijah Cansey, by Logan Hall, you would hope, by, some of these other players that have been coming at him all day long. That's where you gain your advantage. It's a lot like I tell my son in hockey, you have to go 100% as hard and as fast as you can every single shift, because in 45 seconds, you're going to get to the bench. You're going to get a couple of minutes to get a breather. Then you can go all out again for another 45 seconds. And let me tell you, it makes a huge, huge difference. So now for the Buccaneers, the first round is a little more open and up in the air than I think it was this time yesterday. You can take the best player available at edge, along the interior of the offensive line, cornerback, wide receiver is in the mix, and you don't feel like you're forced into one particular approach to the draft. Evan and I talked on yesterday's episode about the possibility of Cooper DeJean out of Iowa being a pick for the Bucs at 26 as a cornerback that Bowles could utilize in a lot of different ways. But now you can look at guys like Adonai Mitchell if he falls, and not only get a big receiver to fill that wide receiver 3 role, but potentially a guy that might have to take the place of Chris Godwin next season. Again, I'm going to talk more about that on tomorrow's live episode, but you can look at a guy like Peyton Wilson to replace Devin White at inside linebacker. You can look at Kool-Aid McKinstry, which was a popular name early on in the draft process. And the Bucs could look there with DeJean probably off the board, before their pick. You could get Graham Barton or Jackson Powers Johnson as your new starting center or starting guard. You can move Hainsey back to guard if JPJ is your pick, and you're more comfortable at that point looking for an edge rusher on day 2. Remember, it's about the collective, not the individual pick. Yes, in a vacuum, Laiatu Latu would be an amazing pick, but what's a better first 2 days overall? Latu, Junior Colson at inside linebacker, Cedric Van Pran, and Brendan Rice in the third round? Or would it be JPJ to come in and be your new starting center and move Hainsey over to guard? Then you get Marshawn Nealon at the edge, Johnny Wilson, a 6'7" wide receiver, and then cornerback DJ James. Yeah, in the first one, you get arguably the best edge rusher in the draft. You get an inside linebacker, an offensive lineman, and a wide receiver. But then in the second one, you get an offensive lineman, and you actually fill 2 positions in one pick. You get an edge rusher, you get Gigantor at wide receiver, and then you get a corner. Yeah, Latu is probably the best of all of the players that I just named, but Powers Johnson is better than Van Pran. He also allows you to fill 2 starting jobs with 1 pick. Collectively, the second draft is probably the better one. That's the flexibility that the Buccaneers have now given themselves with the signing of Randy Gregory. So we are going to put this theory into action with some dueling mock drafts. That is coming up next on this episode of Locked On Bucs. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With Game Time's last-minute deals, you can save up to 60% off when buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, or theater near you. I love the all-in pricing, so there's no shock when I get to check out. What I see is what I pay. Then, when I get to check out, nothing makes it easier than being able to use Apple Pay. It takes me absolutely no time at all from the moment I pick my seats to the moment I have them right there on my phone. And with their lowest price guarantee, if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, brake kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Wrapping things up here on a Thursday edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast, and I'm putting this theory into action, and I want to know what you guys think. So for those of you watching on YouTube, give me your opinion in the comment section as to which of these two mock drafts are better. For those of you listening on the podcast, of course, you can tweet at Locked On Bucs with your opinion. You can tweet me at Yarcho_Bucs or my Locked On Bucs insiders to shoot me a text message. Let me know what you think. But I started things off with a mock draft where I didn't force the issue and make sure that I got an edge rusher in the first round. I just let the board fall to me, and I took the best player available at a position of need. Now, I used Pro Football Focus's mock draft simulator. I did not do any trades. I just wanted to leave it alone. I was going to pick where the Buccaneers were supposed to pick. Of course, the computer was making trades with itself all over the place. But for my part, I did not trade up. I did not accept any trade offers, nothing like that. And I did 4 rounds. So 5 picks for the Buccaneers. And the first one, again, I did not force the issue of an edge rusher in the first round. So with the way things fell, I got Cooper DeJean, the cornerback out of Iowa, at pick 26. In the second round with pick 57, I got Utah edge rusher Jonah Ellis. Third round, pick 89, I got linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson as a contender to win that starting linebacker job that is going to replace Devin White. It'll be Jeremiah Trotter Jr. against KJ Britt for that starting job. 3 picks later, I got Cedric Van Pran, the center out of Georgia. And then in the 4th round with pick 125, I got Braylon Allen, the running back out of Wisconsin. I talked a lot about him on Tuesday's episode. If you missed that, go back and listen. He was one of my top 5 favorite fits for the Buccaneers at the running back position in this draft class. Really big dude, really productive. Like him a lot. But that's what I came away with. And I want you guys who are watching the YouTube to take a look at those grades that I got for those picks. I'm going to recap that in a minute. So podcast listeners, don't worry. We're going to go over the grades in just a moment. But then I did another mock draft where I ensured that the Buccaneers got an edge rusher in the first round. And when I did that, at the first pick number 26, I took Chop Robinson, the edge rusher out of Penn State. He was the best one available at the time. But Jackson Powers Johnson, Jerzon Newton out of Illinois, Xavier Worthy, they were all still sitting there on the board, all probably better choices I couldn't believe that Newton fell as far as he did. I mean, I can't even imagine a defensive line where you have Newton, Vea, and Cansey. That is a nightmare for opposing offenses, and he absolutely would have been my pick if I didn't force myself to take an edge rusher there. Then pick 57 in the second round, I got Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia. I was really surprised that he fell to me. Was really excited to take him there. Then at pick 89 in the third round, I took Jarrian Jones, the cornerback out of Florida State. At 92, I took Marist Liufau, the linebacker out of Notre Dame. And then again, fourth round pick 125, I took Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, the running back there. He was the best player available both times. There were some offensive linemen that fell to me in the fourth round that I might have pulled the trigger on, but I didn't want to double up on offensive line. I already got Zach Frazier. He's kind of the same in the same realm that Powers Johnson is. He could come in and play center. You slide Robert Hainsey over to guard. You might be able to kill two birds with one stone there. But I really didn't like the wide receivers that fell to me in the third or fourth rounds, which is why I didn't take one in either of these mock drafts. Malik Washington out of Virginia was there both times, but he's pretty much a slot receiver. That role is going to be primarily Chris Godwin next year. So to me, that would have been a wasted pick. In the second mock, I was looking at Brendan Rice out of USC, but the Cardinals traded up and took him at pick 90, so I couldn't take him at 92. There was a serious internal debate with myself about taking him at 89, but I opted for Jones. He could be a slot corner, and that would allow Christian Izien to go back to his natural position of safety, provide some depth there at a still very shallow position, or he could be a rotational guy until next year when he has a better grasp and understanding of the scheme and grows a little, a la Zion McCollum from 2022 to 2023. I actually talked about that with Matt Matera when I was on the Pewter Report podcast yesterday. If you didn't happen to catch the live, go back and check that out. Matt and I had a great conversation. They do a great job over there at Pewter Report, friends with a lot of those guys. So I was happy to be on that show. So please go check that out, support them as well. But I'm going to put up this side by side, and I want you guys to see, for those of you watching on the YouTube, take a look at these side by side. Both of these mock drafts got an overall draft grade of an A. All right. So, hey, that's good news. That's pretty cool. But take a look at the individual grades. In the first mock, when I didn't force the issue at edge rusher, I had 3 of my 5 individual picks graded as an A. I had an A+ for Cooper DeJean. I had an A for Jonah Ellis, and I had an A- for Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Then in the second one, when I forced the issue at edge rusher and I took Chop Robinson over a guy like Jerzon Newton, I got a B for that selection. I only came away with 1 individual A when I got an A+ for Zach Frazier. Every other pick, Jarrian Jones, Liufau, and Braylon Allen all got individual grades as a B. Now, again, the overall was an A. I addressed in the first one, I got a corner, I got an edge rusher, I got an offensive lineman, I got a linebacker, I got a running back. In the second one, I got an edge rusher, I got a cornerback, I got a linebacker, I got an offensive lineman, I got a running back. Same positions, but different groups of guys, with my focus being on different things. This is why I stress that it's about the collective, not about the individual. David Harrison, longtime co-host of this show, he and I talk about that every single draft season. And it's so important to remember. And that's why I really, going back to my original point, I really like this signing of Randy Gregory, because he gives the Buccaneers a little bit more flexibility to be able to focus on the best player available at any position of need in the first round, rather than the best edge rusher possible, because that position is so thin. So let me know in the comments section which of those drafts that you thought were better. For those of you listening on the podcast, Of course, you can let me know via Twitter at Locked On Bucs or at JYarcho_Bucs. Insiders, shoot me a text. Let me know what you think. And for you podcast listeners, if you want to go back and just check out the YouTube. I put graphics up, side-by-side comparisons of both of these mock drafts. But let me know what you think, because I'm curious to hear which collective you guys thought was better. That's going to do it for this episode. Please make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Turn the notifications on so you know when I go live on Friday, barring any other big news. I will be talking about Chris Godwin and his future with the Buccaneers and potential replacements if the Bucs are going to move on. So you're going to want to make sure that you're in the live chat for that one. Check out everything going on over at BucsNation.com. Follow on Twitter at LockedOnBucs, at JYarcho_Bucs. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Join subtext.com/LockedOnBucs. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. I want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.